2005, two brothers hit the road to chase demons and fight monsters. You know, like you do. After 15 years, they made television history and built a community of dedicated and lasting fans.
Sure did.
I'm Rob Benedict, and I played God, a.k.a. Chuck Shirley.
Yeah, you are, and yeah, you did. And I'm Richard Spade Jr., and I played the Archangel Gabriel, a.k.a. the Trickster, a.k.a. Loki. I also had the privilege of directing a bunch of episodes of the show.
Have a few more AKAs, why don't you? Jeez.
A.k.a. you're a jerk.
Though we've been involved with the series for years and multiple seasons, we never sat down and watched the entire show.
Oh, that's not true anymore. Now we're deep into it. We are going episode by episode and diving in with the folks who made it to bring you an insider's point of view and some great behind-the-scenes stories from the writers, producers, crew, and actors. And you're getting our pure, honest, unfettered reviews.
And along the road, let me tell you, we're becoming fans.
Buddy, we are super fans.
We've heard you saying it for years, and we finally get what all the excitement's about. This show holds up after all this time and deserves to be watched and rewatched.
We will be hitting on some spoilers, so consider yourself warned. And if you have any angry emails you want to send, please direct them to Babo.
Thank you for joining our journey and listening to Supernatural Then and Now. Hey everybody, this is Rob Benedict.
You can't make this up.
Classic.
Yeah, let's go ahead and record.
And we're back.
So this podcast will start with Benedict.
That's classic. All right. Hey, everybody. This is Rob Benedict.
And I go by the moniker given to me by my parents at birth. And that name is a series of three names, which are Richard Spade Jr.
And that's all the time we have, everyone. We're talking about season 4, episode 12. Criss Angel is a douchebag.
Now, what's the title of the episode?
Criss Angel is a douchebag.
I get you're doing your own little thing about how you don't like Criss Angel, but let's get to the title of the episode.
And the title is Criss Angel is a douchebag.
Huh.
That's all the time we have, everyone. Hey, everybody. It's us. We're back. And we want to tell you that you can now find us up on TikTok at SPN Then and Now. That's right.
Robbie, you've been doing a lot of TikTok videos for this bad boy?
Oh, man. I've been heavy into I've been TikToking. I've been talking. I've been ticking.
I've been smash burgering. Yeah, same.
And we're still on Instagram and Twitter X.
Twitter X, which is Twitter, only dirtier.
That's right.
The previous Twitter was Twitter NC-17. Now it's
right.
Twitter X.
Right. That's right. But at least they got the rating. Richard, shall I tell you what Criss Angel's a douchebag is about?
Yeah, you can bounce a few off the cuff, thoughts about the episode. Yeah, it's kind of in your own words, please. Give me the summary.
Okay, so an up-and-coming magician dies mysteriously in Sioux City, Iowa during Magic Week, while at the same time, a distraught magician, Jay, performs a death-defying trick. Sam and Dean go to investigate. They discovered that the victim had a 10 of Swords tarot card on him when he died. Dean questions two older magicians, Charlie and Vernon, who don't have any information, but say the boys should speak with the chief.
Yes, the chief, Robert, the chief.
Dean finds the chief, only to discover that he's been misled to an S&M leather dome. That's right. Yeah, a male dominatrix. Meanwhile, Sam is doing research back at the hotel when Ruby shows up. She tells him that he is wasting his time. He should be pursuing Lilith, and that the Angels are losing while more seals get broken. Sam refuses, Ruby leaves, and later they get married. Later that evening, Jay wants to attempt another death-defying trick, the executioner.
The executioner.
Which involves being hung by a noose while in a straitjacket. While attempting the trick, Jay struggles in the straitjacket while hanging. Elsewhere, we see a rope come to life like a serpent and hang a young magician from a ceiling fan.
Now, which young magician was that?
That was, is that the guy that was making fun of him?
Kind of the Criss Angel guy.
Oh, it's the Criss Angel guy, that's right.
Yeah.
The douchebag.
Yeah. Right.
As the magical noose tightens on the victim, Jay is freed. So Sam and Dean theorize that Jay is using black magic to accomplish his tricks to regain former glory.
Wait, he's a black magic. Whoa, man.
He's a black magic woman. He's a black magic woman. Sam wonders if he and Dean will still be hunting when they are old men. Dean tells him that their lives will likely end bloody or sad.
Well, thanks for the upbeat prediction there, Dean.
Sam asks if Dean would end the demon war if he could. Dean wonders if Sam is hiding anything. Sam denies it.
Wow. Great conversation, guys. Both of you just full of it.
Really, yeah. I couldn't help but think in that moment that Sam does live a long life, but Dean does not.
I couldn't help but think the same thing, except for I didn't know that because you just ruined it for me. Thanks a lot.
All right. Sorry. I keep forgetting you didn't watch the finale. The brothers find out that the latest victim had a tarot card on his body at the time of death, too. Sam and Dean confront Jay about using black magic. Jay denies it. Yeah. Jay denies it and has the brothers arrested. Later, Jay tells his close friend Charlie that he doesn't know how he's going to do the death-defying magic.
That's not what he says.
Later, Jay tells his close friend Charlie that he doesn't know how he's doing the death-defying magic.
Right.
Charlie encourages him to continue.
Keep doing it, man.
That evening, Jay makes a second attempt at the table of death trick. This time, his friend Charlie is the one to die.
Oh, no.
Jay gets the boys released from jail and asks for their help in investigating what is going on. Jay accuses his friend Vernon of doing something nefarious. Jay accuses his friend Vernon of doing something nefarious. Vernon denies it. In the middle of the confrontation, a young Charlie interrupts them and admits to the shenanigans.
Oh, no, not to the shenanigans.
Charlie has been alive since the times of P.T. Barnum, the great showman of the mid-1800s.
Well, yeah, Hugh Jackman. We all know who that is.
Yeah. Charlie reveals that Barnum gave him a collection of spells, a grimoire that contain a spell for immortality. Charlie offers eternal life to Jay and Vernon, but Sam and Dean must die.
That seems like a fair trade.
Yeah. Jay uses a sleight of hand trick, steals the enchanted tarot cards, and kills Charlie using a trick. Later, Sam and Dean arrive at a bar to speak with a depressed Jay. They try to thank him for doing the right thing. Jay questions if it is the right thing, that one friend died, another left him, and now he must live a lonely life.
It's a bummer that his other friend left him. That seemed like, well, that's not cool.
That's a real tragedy.
Yeah.
Later, Sam privately meets with Ruby and says he's changed his mind. He doesn't want to be an old man hunting monsters. And that's it. That's the end of the ep.
End of the episode. Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, lots
like
to... Yeah. So did I tell you that I did a movie, I once did a scene with Michael Weston, who's the real-life son of John Rubinstein.
Which is awesome.
And plays him as a young man in this. And he went to Northwestern. He's a Northwestern grad.
What was the movie you did with him?
A movie called State of Play. I had a small part in, and we had a whole bit together.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway, I'll go into my review. I really loved the episode. What really made it for me was these three actors that they got to play these three roles. They're just they're classic, like you said, veteran actors.
Oh, journeyman, to be sure.
And it was fun to see those pros. I kept thinking like, oh, wow, that must have been a big steal at the time. Like, and maybe it's me because I grew up in the 80s, but I was like, Barry Bostwick, that's awesome.
I thought it was cool. I think you are correct in noting how awesome that is.
And I kind of like magic, so I like the magic part of it. I like that it was a little bit different of an ending than we normally get, where it wasn't necessarily a happy ending.
Yeah, correct.
And I, I always love when Ruby's in it, and kind of watching the ongoing thing of what's happening over there with Sam and Ruby. Yeah, and it was a good twist because you think, you get misled two different ways. You think it's Barry Bostwick doing it, and then you're like, oh no, it's this other guy doing it, and then you're like, oh no, this whole time it was John Rubinstein and an immortality trick, the old immortality trick,
the old 1, 2, you're still alive trick.
Yeah, so I enjoyed it. I think it's such a good season. But Rich, what did you really think?
I think the casting of the three veteran guys makes the episode. Barry is awesome. It's Richard Libertine, whose work I was super familiar with because I was corrected in our interview, which I think airs after this. But
I think he's Libertini. I think that's how he's
Libertini. Okay, sorry, but he's like in Fletch and in All of Me, and just has done a ton of movies. Mm-hmm. And so I was amazed that he was part of the cast, and not even the main guest star of the week. It was as Barry, and then these supporting guys who were just super successful guys. It was great. It was really, really cool and elevated the whole episode. And the guy who played Criss Angel, the Criss Angel type at least, was really good.
He was good. Yeah, he did that well.
Yeah, so I enjoyed the whole thing. I thought, and I also was a fan of magic. I love that they kept showing us tricks. We were seeing some of the magic that was going on. I thought that made it really fun.
Yeah, totally agree on all those counts. Where are you on the beard monitor? The beard level?
I am going to say that this is the Kenny Rogers. I think it's a really solid episode. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I reserve Stapletons for the ones that I think are just absolutely perfect in every way. And it's not like I don't think this one is, there's nothing I can point at and go, I didn't like this. I liked everything about it. I thought it was really good, really solid, really fun, well acted, well written.
Yeah.
So it's getting a solid review from me in the form of a Kenny Rogers.
Yeah. I really love this episode. I just wanted to sort of do an homage to the episode and give a real classic, because it's got these 3 classic actors. Yeah. So I want to give a real classic beard. So I'm going to go with, how about the Dan Haggerty? I'm going to do the Dan Haggerty.
Dan Haggerty, Grizzly Adams?
Yeah.
Ah, yeah. I thought you were going to whip out the name of a bearded magician, like you're going to give this the Gallagher or something. I guess he's not a magician. The Doug Henning.
Did he have a beard?
No, he just had a big mustache. That's what I thought.
Magician beard. Yeah, a lot of mustaches with musicians. I mean, my second option was the Billy Gibbons, just because, from ZZ Top.
Yeah, we know.
That was a long.
Well, interestingly, the only member of ZZ Top without a beard was the drummer, Frank Beard.
That's right.
Dusty Hill and Frank Gibbons had glorious beards. However,
and then and the most famous beard of all, your wife.
Yeah, exactly. I thought there was definitely a beard joke in there waiting to come out there.
I'll give it the Dan Haggerty, meaning it's a great beard, it's a full beard, and it's classic. These guys
it's befriended a bear named Ben.
And it's befriended a bear named Ben.
All right, that's awesome. So you got a Kenny Rogers and a Dan Haggerty. Strong reviews to get us back in the saddle, as it were.
That's right.
Resume our podcasting of Supernatural Then and Now, a rewatch podcast that you're currently listening to on this station.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned for the hits.
Because next up, we've got a great interview.
Great, such an interview. We've already done it, so we know how great it is.
So we're going to go right into that right now. Everyone, it's always a treat to have with us executive producer, often director, and
showrunner.
And really just the backbone of the show, our good friend, Mr. Robert Singer. Hi, Bob.
Hi, guys. How are you?
I feel like if people don't know Bob by now, they're just listening to the wrong podcast.
They are, yeah. Okay, so what's the story behind the title? Was it a funny idea to say Criss Angel is a douchebag? Or was it was rumored to be inspired by bits from the Kevin and Bean show where they talked about their constant teasing of Criss Angel?
I don't know. This is the first I've heard that. I always just thought that Eric had it in for Criss Angel for some reason.
That's what I assumed. Yeah, it just sounds like a Kripke thing to say.
No, it was definitely Kripke. Yeah, I was always surprised that we could use it and then actually refer to it in dialogue in the show.
Yeah, it's funny that cleared.
Yeah, I was surprised, but maybe somebody's asleep at the wheel. I don't know, but we, talking about the sort of Criss Angel guy that we were using, and he was referred to I think 3 or 4 times as what a douchebag. And I'm going, geez,
yeah, I know.
Could we get away with that? But I guess we could.
I know.
It wasn't subtle.
This
is not one of those ones where he had to sort of dust it off and look beneath the surface to see what was really being said here.
And maybe Criss Angel is just a sweetheart. We don't know. I
have no idea. I've never met him. But wherever Kripke wants us to go, that's where we would go.
That's where you go.
It would be kind of funny if Criss Angel does a magic show sometime in the future called Eric Kripke's a Pompous Jerk.
Yeah, exactly. And so at one point in the process, did you cast these classic actors?
Yeah, dude.
Barry Bostwick, Richard Libertine, John Rubinstein.
I had worked with Richard many years ago, and it was on a failed pilot that I directed. It was one of those things you had to put out of your mind, that particular pilot. It was It was one of those jobs you kind of take for the money, I guess.
Yeah.
But no, their names came up with casting, and I said, God, it would be so great to be able to have all three, and as you guys know, rarely would we bring three actors from California up. But I sort of cajoled and said, God, I really want this. And, I did my Bobby Wine thing, which sometimes works. And so it was a treat. It was really a treat. And three just great professionals, just a pleasure to work with. I hung out with Bostwick on the set a lot. He was really a sweet guy. I really loved Barry. He was terrific.
Oh, cool.
And you didn't know him before, so you didn't have a history with Barry.
Other than just working one day with Richard Libertini, I didn't know any of them.
Oh, my God.
I was always a admirer of John Rubinstein.
Yeah.
As an actor, but he also, along with Tim McIntyre, did the music for the Robert Redford Mountain Man movie.
Oh.
Anyway, he wrote a wonderful score. He and Tim McIntyre. Tim sang the song in the movie, and I always thought, God, it was so cool. And I guess John's father is just a well-known
composer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Johnson.
Jeremiah Johnson.
There
right.
you go.
I saw John in a play. I mean, he's a great theater actor as well. I saw him in a musical back when Century City had that the theater and plays would come through.
Right. Yeah.
But regardless, you end up with this all-star cast, which you're right is a challenge in itself, just in terms of getting everybody up to L.A. Barry Bostwick is inspired casting. Did that come from Robert Ulrich?
Yeah, I think these were just names that Ulrich had given us sort of his, wish list.
Mm-hmm.
But to get three well-known actors to come up and do this thing, and for us to kind of wrangle the idea that we could actually afford it was really special. I mean, I was in heaven with those three guys. It was great.
Yeah, I bet. I thought I was watching it. I was like, oh, I bet Bob's worked with Bostwick before. And his performance is really terrific too. He really plays that really well. It's almost kind of a sad character, who's found this newfound ability. And then Michael Weston, Northwestern graduate, plays young Charlie, the son of John. In real life, he's the son of John Rubinstein. He plays him as a young person in this. Do you remember the behind that casting? Was it John's idea, or?
I think it was John's idea. I think maybe Robert brought it up, and I think we actually read him, and he was great.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
Yeah, he really a very nice actor, and I thought he did a wonderful job in the scene that he had there. That day was brutal.
Really?
Oh, it was just Jensen hated hanging there, and I kept, he would put him down, and then I'd have him like in the background of a shot, and I gotta hang again. I mean,
oh, wow.
I thought I was through hanging.
How do you do that? How do you fake a hanging like that?
You put a halter on them, so they're basically being suspended by a halter around the chest or whatever.
Sure,
so all the pressure it's not on the neck.
Got it.
But it's a pain in the neck. I mean, you're still hanging in the air,
Yeah.
Right.
And Richard didn't have a lot to do that day, and he got a little cranky at the end of the day because I hadn't finished him out. But, you're trying to shoot this, in segments where you can work your way around for lighting. And I was sick as a dog that day. I remember I had a really bad cold. So I thought the scene turned out just fine, but I was not a happy camper that day.
Wow. Well, the scene's great, man. The scene's great.
God, that's got to be a lot of pressure too. You're like wrangling all those people, the stars of your show, and then these three men who are like just classic working veterans. Yes. And you're not feeling well. I can't even imagine.
It was a tough day, but it's such maybe a generational thing. You never had to look for Richard or John or Barry. They were there on set the whole day. It was not like going back to the trailer and then have to call them out. They were just there. Right. I mean, between takes, I remember I would just sit and I would have fun conversations with Barry. He was next to me the entire day.
That's amazing.
It was just sort of the old pro way of doing things.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder, like, what did we, when I started in the business, like, we didn't have cell phones. See, we sat around and talked to people. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they just don't do that anymore.
Well, that's been and listen, obviously they have their worth, but I can remember going on location scouts years ago. Maybe one person had a radio, that they could talk over to talk to somebody that they needed to talk to. But there was a lot of discussion in the van, about what we're going to do and whatnot. It wasn't that everybody was on their cell phone doing something else, and a lot of it clearly, it was work related. And Jerry Wannick certainly used his cell phone to great advantage because he was always, looking ahead to the next show and all that. But I kind of, I sort of miss that, But I go far back where we'd all go and watch dailies together. So
right. When dailies were actually dailies,
right.
So did Barry have a hand model magician doing the sleight of hand stuff?
Yes. Yeah,
he'd cut whoever was doing that magic trick was obviously an expert.
Yeah, and there was I remember I stole a shot out of the Sting where Paul Newman is doing a lot of fancy stuff with the cards, and then there's one shot where he kind of screws up, right, and you tilt up to him, which really gives the illusion that you were seeing the guy really do it. So that was a direct steal from the Sting. Of how to
cool. That's cool.
It's a good homage. Good place to pull a steal from.
It's one of my favorite movies.
This may be complete coincidence, but did the character Bostwick plays as Jay, and as a magician? I just wondered if that was any kind of nod to Ricky Jay or anything like that.
I don't know. I didn't write the script. It could have been.
It made me think that the whole time, just because of his.
Well, that's yeah. Why not?
Sure, we'll go with yes.
Were you into magic as a kid? Was magic a thing?
It's not a big thing for me, but I've always enjoyed magicians. When I would get to see someone, I go, "Wow, that's really cool." And I went through a very brief period of time where I sort of got into different magic tricks. It didn't last very long, but I am pretty handy with a deck of cards and can do card tricks. But
that's cool.
Yeah,
that's good. That does not surprise me.
I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, if I ever see you guys in person, other than on a picket line, I'll bring a deck of cards and show you a couple tricks.
Yeah, not so conducive. Circling Warner Brothers.
No. Zooms and picket lines. That's what our relationships have become.
Well, I was going to say, you had, this is definitely an homage to sort of a different style and time, even in Bostwick's character sort of reflecting back on the old days, as it were, and this sort of the old guard versus new guard in magic. And you also, in the same season, did the monster movie, and it sort of references to Universal Monster. There's a nostalgia element to this episode in a way that also permeates the monster movie one. And I'm curious if that is, you do a great job tapping into that in both instances, and obviously they're in the script, but how much of that resonates with you as somebody who enjoys that era? Like, were those fun journeys to go on as a filmmaker?
Yeah, well, I enjoyed this one, and I thought Barry, that hairstyle we gave him was so kind of 50s,
Yeah, coif.
That's awesome.
In this episode, the magic tricks that he uses, the Table of Death, the Executioner. Do we have any idea if those are real tricks?
No, I think Julie made those up. They just sounded dangerous, and
yeah.
And I thought that worked pretty well, and obviously you could do a lot of cheating with the camera, but when you actually see the things come down, and the audience reacts, it was kind of cool. Yeah,
it is. It really worked every time.
Ahoy, Rich Spade here. Hope you're enjoying the episode, but we got to pull over for a second for some messages. Hey, this is Richard Spate. You know what? It's 2024. It's a brand new year, and I bet you made some New Year's resolutions, and I bet one of them was to eat healthier. Well, you can get cranking on that resolution right now, my friend, with Factor. Factor's ready-to-eat meal delivery takes the stress out of meal planning and sets you up for success in the new year. Skip the grocery stores, the prep work, the cooking fatigue. I'm getting tired just talking about it. Instead, get chef-crafted, dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. With over 35 meals to choose from per week, including options like keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and more, plus over 55 weekly add-ons, You will have a ton of nutritious and flavorful options to kickstart this resolution off right. Forget frantic lunch prep and rush dinner making. That stinks. Factor's 2-minute meals, yes, I said 2 minutes, are your secret weapon in the new year. You get to fuel up fast with restaurant quality meals all delivered right to your door. It doesn't get any easier than that. And Factor now offers loads of snack options like breakfast, smoothies, juices, snacks, and more to keep you going no matter what's on the schedule. So I know what you're asking, Rich, how do I tap into this Factor magic? You head to factormeals.com/SPNTAN50 and use code SPNTAN50 to get 50% off. That's a lot off. That's code SPNTAN50 at factormeals.com/SPNTAN50 for 50% off. Make that resolution happen now and make it happen at a discount. Fantastic food that's healthy and delicious and delivered right to my door. Now that is how you start the new year off right. Thanks for listening. Now back to the episode.
We have written here that the chief scene is hilarious. You know what the chief scene is?
The chief scene is Jensen goes and talks to the three guys, and they don't give him much information, but they tell him to go to a certain address that he can get some.
Oh, yes.
And it's this back alley thing,
right.
And it's it's a
some kind of S&M
thing, Guy asked me a safe word.
Yeah,
that was such a funny switcheroo.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was fun, and Jensen goes back to see them, right? And the guy say, listen, we're in the business, you're pawning off, some fake FBI ID on us. It's not going to work,
Yeah. Another good one is when they've tied up Barry Bostwick and they're having a tete-a-tete on the other side of the room, and then you kind of circle around with the camera, and Barry's gone. Like, we should have guessed. Like he got out of the ropes. Right. Like he's a magician. That was a cool shot too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
It was a super fun episode, and I love the magic elements of it. That I know you're using trickery for everything, but it just was fun. And even that opening shot of like some guy street magician doing something. Just cool stuff.
Yeah, it was. It was fun to do, and the card when the Criss Angel characters is doing the street side thing, and the card sticks to the window.
Yeah, that was cool.
If I told you how simple that was, I said, really? This is the way we do that. This is what they do.
Wow.
Yeah, you need an accomplice, and there's just like a fly swatter, right? And it's again just a misdirection thing, and you hit this fly swatter onto the window and the card sticks, but you never see the fly swatter thing. It's
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really? So somebody as part of the act does it. Like it's not the Criss Angel.
Well, we don't ever see that, but that's the way we really did it.
Wow.
I assume that would be maybe the way magicians would do that with an assistant. Because, we had a magician who was a technical advisor, and he said, this is the way we would get that done. So I'm sure that's probably the way, some version of that in real magic acts.
Must have been fun having a magician on set for the week.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, cool. So a lot of the stuff we did, it was fun to do. I was also, I hadn't watched this thing in forever. So I'm always... I tend to be critical of my direction. I see things, I go, I wish I hadn't done it that way, or whatever. And then I see things, I go, wow, that was pretty well done. So revisiting these things is always interesting to me.
Yeah, I bet.
What stuck out to you in both sides, positive and negative, about this one?
Well, sometimes you think back and you say, God, I was really crunched for time, and I shot it in a way that got the scene done, but was not necessarily as elegant as I might like. The last scene in the theater, which has so many elements to it, I remember dropping shots that I wanted to do that were kind of cool just to kind of be able to get the story told. And again, I wasn't feeling well that day, so I don't think I was totally on top of my game. I thought there was probably a nicer, a little more elegant way to shoot that. As I looked at it now, I said, well, that worked. That was fine. the shot that you brought up, Rob, where Bostwick disappears.
Yeah,
I like that. I thought that was well done. So
it was great. Yeah, it's funny. Some scenes are almost easier to tell the story than others, where you got 6 people in the scene and you have to cover all these different ways. It's so complicated.
Yeah, and you're going to do it for. If you were making a movie, it would take 3 days to do, and
sure.
And we're doing it in one day. The theater was cold. Right. The whole thing was not pleasant. But
wow,
everybody came up. We got the game speed, and I think it worked well.
Yeah,
it does. It's sort of those inside baseball things that, as a viewer, you would never know, just because the scene plays great, and so It's interesting hearing someone of your experience and skill level talk about the shots they don't get, because there's so many great shots in the episodes that obviously to the viewer, we don't leave missing anything. You just know what you left on the table.
Right.
And that's kind of an interesting perspective.
And I imagine Martin Scorsese probably says, God, I wish I would have gotten this,
Sure. I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Phil told that funny story about, I guess, maybe it was on one of your shows, by one of the shows you executive produced, but Eric Lanible, he was swapping spots with Eric Lanible. He was turning over in midday. Eric was done with an episode, and Phil was a young director, and he said that as he was passing Eric Lanible, and Eric Lanible was like, prepare to be disappointed. Just as he's going into another day of work.
I'm sure that was
you're not going to get it all.
Probably a midnight caller.
Yeah.
There are a lot of insert shots in this episode of ropes, hands, walls, of spikes, tarot cards. Kind of know the answer to this, but I want to hear you say it. Is how much of those are covered by the director, and how much of those are sort of the camera breaks off? And I guess specifically, how much of that is improv? You know what? I might want a shot of the hands here, or is the ways that you do it? It's all pretty mapped out what you want to get.
It's pretty mapped out. I think I don't know, kind of the way I do it. I think a lot of guys don't, just because maybe I'm lazy. But I really play scenes in my head when I'm reading the script, and I just play them in my head, and so I have all these shots in my head. My notes are very sparse. I mean, if you look at Phil's notes as compared to my notes, mine look. I mean, the guys always used to tease me when they would take my script, and and I have like stick figures and little arrows going places. But that's But so I have this film running in my head, and I get the shots from that film. That's just that's the best way I can explain it.
Yeah. This seemed very specific, though. I mean, specifically the magic going on in this episode. It felt like, I don't know if we decided it's all shot by you, Bob, but it felt like it was, because it all felt character driven. It felt like, they're looking down and the hands are doing something. It all was very specific and had to match the moment, if you will,
Yeah, I think you're right there, and when you're including sort of this magic stuff in it, it has to really be seamless. So if I can't, I know where the hands are going to go when we cut it, or what my intent was. So I think in this case, it was really important that I kind of did everything, because you're trying to fool the audience, with basically camera tricks. So,
And then we're in the middle of season 4, and the Monster of the Week thing is still heavily part of the show. But Ruby and other reminders continue to pop up about Lilith and the 66 seals. Is that season arc mapped out before the individual monster episodes are written? In other words, at the beginning of the season, do you guys go, okay, this is where the boys are, this is where we want them to get to by the end? And then you go back in and go, ooh, and we'll have an episode where they do this, and they'll do that,
We would basically do a half season. We would go, we would set the template and who the characters were for that, and we would do a half season. And then we would have a meeting at, mid-year and figure out what the end was. Our cliffhangers were... We would do cliffhangers not knowing where we were going to start the next year.
Right.
That's awesome.
Right.
or how we were going to get out of the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Cliffhanger's really cool, so we'll just do that and then figure out the rest later.
Like bringing Dean back to life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's way to make it exciting. Swing without a net, as they say.
Well, when Sarah left the show and she wrote the last episode before she left, and that had Dean and Cass stuck in purgatory. It was a really cool thing. They both got stuck in purgatory, and then we see Dean in purgatory, and he's looking for Cass, and Cass is nowhere to be found. And I went, wow, that's really a cool cliffhanger. But Sarah's leaving us with trying to figure out how to get out of there.
Right.
Yeah. Hilarious.
Wow.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. Well, it's always interesting because some of these, especially this story, gets so involved. You get so wrapped up in those characters that I actually like that the through line takes a backseat to some of these. I guess they're called Monster of the Week episodes, but these episodes where the guest stars are the stars. This big story of Barry and the magic and the journey and his history and all that kind of stuff. And the boys come in to sort of resolve it. But you really get sucked up into these episodes, and the subplot, which is the bigger arc of the season, sort of stands down for an episode or two. And I think that was helpful in Supernatural, keeping the idea that they're going to be solving these issues as they go along. You know what I mean? They never forgot what they're supposed to be doing on the road.
Right.
In the middle of the season, which I like.
Yeah, I mean, that was, we just try to keep the Uber story alive and just give it a nod in any particular episode, which I think the fans probably were interested in. But in our standalones, it was always, we wanted the guest stars or the guest villain, the guest monster to have their own story. Eric used to say, every villain is the hero of his own story. And we tried to live by that, just give them their own story. And, and sometimes they were vulnerable. Sometimes they were just so awful, but they had an agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And I think.
Yeah. And this led to there was definitely things that were, led right back to the themes that Sam and Dean were fighting with. You know what I mean? About what is Sam going to do for his brother and that kind of thing. Because Barry has that whole sequence at the end. He's like, he was like a brother to me, and now he's gone. I got to grow old by myself and all of that stuff. It definitely, brought us back to where we had been. If you
yeah, I thought that. I love that last scene. Very simple, but Barry was so good in it, and you really felt for the guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, he's a really talented actor because, as we know, he can do comedy. And I was watching this thing again. He really touched me. I got to say.
Yeah, he's great.
Very much so. Yeah, very much so. This is an interesting ending to this one, too, because the parties aren't entirely grateful for Sam and Dean's involvement.
Right.
Yeah.
The last thing we have for you is, so the boys drive a 67 Impala. Bobby drives a 71 Chevelle SS. In the final scene of this episode, we see Ruby driving her 1970 Mach 1 Mustang. Are there no reliable Hondas or sensible Subaru Outbacks?
No modern cars to be had in that series of towns.
Well, I think Ruby kind of feels that Sam's very comfortable in that car, so that's a cool car. That was an interesting night.
Oh yeah,
yeah. We shot.
Go on.
No. We shot the night. We shot Jensen going into the Bleecker Street place for the your safe word place. We shot that exterior, and we shot Jared getting into Ruby's car. And that was the night work. The day work was in the Patricia Hotel where like Barry calls the cops and all that upstairs stuff. So that was a kind of a full day. We got through it pretty well. And now we needed dark. So we were going to have a little bit of a downtime. So Jared and Jensen went to that steak place, that famous steak place in Vancouver. The name is escaping me now.
Gotham?
Gotham, yes, thank you. And now we're waiting for them while they're enjoying their scotches and their steaks. And so by the time they came back up, I was a little unhappy with them.
Oh, boy.
They came a tad late.
Uh-huh.
And I was giving Jensen what for about that, and I said, and it was a Friday, and you guys know, we used to have those Fraturdays, and we had a real shot to get out of there before midnight on a Friday, which would have been rare.
Big news. Yeah.
So I was giving Jensen what for about that, and I said, you ought to really apologize to the crew and blah blah blah. So he kind of gave a half apology. We shot his thing, and it was real quick. And then I'm walking away, and Jared started getting on me about how they're always there on time, and and I shouldn't be blah blah blah, and I just lost it with him,
Really?
Yeah. I said, A, I wasn't talking to you. B, you're not always here on time. So listen, let's just shoot this and have a nice weekend, and we'll all reconvene on Monday. But I don't need your shit tonight. So.
That's probably, it's great to have a Bob around, because there's not a lot of people would have been like, okay, I hear you. Yeah, okay. Filing that one away. And you're like, not Singer, man, not Bob. No, sir. That ain't going by.
It's dad and a couple sons,
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes the sons need the what for. You know what I mean?
Darn right.
You got to give them the what for.
Time to go to the woodshed.
Uh-huh.
Well, this would be this would be off topic, so it's not supernatural. But sometimes if we're all having a beer somewhere, I'll tell you a Gary Busey story that I had.
Oh boy!
Oh man, I am in.
I've got a couple Gary Busey stories.
I don't have any Gary Busey.
I didn't.
Oh, you're lucky, Rich. Believe me.
God.
All right.
Yeah, it's a different kind of insanity.
Right.
All right. Good to know. File that one away for next time.
Yeah.
Bob, thank you so much for doing this, man. I mean, truly, nobody has the insight you have. It's awesome. It's so fun.
I appreciate that, guys. And it's always a pleasure to talk to you.
Hey there, this is Jensen. I hope you're enjoying the episode, but we need to pull over for a second for some messages, and I got to take a leak. Hey there, thanks for listening. Now, back to the episode.
Hey, that was great. Bob, classic as always. And of the Bob interviews, it was one of the best.
God, I love hearing from Bob in any way, shape, or form about anything. What a knowledgeable fellow, but just effing funny.
Funny, and I mean, the story about the boys at the end, too, is so classic. It's so classic, great. All three of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because it really is a dad and two sons, because, it's the strict dad who's like, hey, apologize to everybody. And then Jensen gives a half-assed apology, his words. And then Jared goes, hey, you can't talk to him like that. We work hard. and then Bob's like, nah, we're out, just go home for the weekend.
I like Bob said, first of all, I said, I'm not talking to you.
Yeah. Talking to your brother.
Like, you're not going to get it. Nobody's going to intimidate Bob Singer.
God, he reminds me of you in the way you're going to be in 30 years. And
30 minutes.
Yeah, I gave him the what for. I mean, no one says that anymore. That's so great. So I gave him the what for.
I think I say that actively now to this day.
You probably do. It's just a classic way of talking. I guess I was giving him the what for, and then the other one comes up, and well, first of all, I'm talking to you. It's so great.
All right, let's get into something in this program that we do on the reg, and it's a segment that we segue into from where we are right now, and it's got a title that is simple and explanatory, and it is this: mythology.
Tarot cards. Tarot cards were originally invented in Italy in the 1430s and were designed for card games. They were often an added suit to a standard playing card deck, superior in power to the standard suits.
You know what they called them in Italy?
What?
A tarot card.
A tarot card.
A tarot cards.
Instead of a standard suit mark, the tarot card each had a different allegorical illustration, likely dating back to ancient Roman celebrations and customs.
The number of cards and suits in the tarot deck evolved over the centuries and in different cultures. Their adoption for use in the occult and fortune-telling didn't occur until late in the 1700s in France, or as they say in France, en France.
Oui. Oh, that's interesting. I never knew that. Never knew that at all.
I kind of thought they were made to be part of the fortune-telling world. I didn't know they were in regular playing cards.
And so what is a grimoire?
It's like an armoire,
Right.
but it's just always mopey.
Right. It's really grim.
Like there's a sad sack of an armoire.
Yeah. I have a really nice grimoire in my...
Like I have my shirts in it. I don't like going in there because every time I go to get a shirt, it says, "Hey, what are you doing?" Like, I'm going to grab a shirt and go out. No, I wish I could do that.
Well, in reality, it's just
But I'm a piece of furniture. You can't.
It's just me, your grimoire. That's where I keep my black shirts, my rainy day clothing.
Exactly.
But in reality, it's just a fancy word for spell book or book of magic. The word has its roots in Europe, but refers to texts from varying cultures and regions.
Some of the more popular grimoires include the 6th and 7th Book of Moses. I liked 1, 2, 3, not a fan of 4, 5, and I actually liked 8. 6 and 7, a bit grim for me.
I feel like they could have done it all in 6. They didn't need to divide it in 2 books.
Well, but they were making money for each printing, you know what I'm saying? So this is definitely a cash grab.
True.
The Clavicle of Solomon, which, by the way...
one of my favorites.
If you haven't seen Solomon's Clavicle, you're missing a trick. The 4th book of occult philosophy. Again, 1, 2, and 3 are just time killers to get you to 4.
Yeah.
But I bailed out at 2, so I never even got to this occult philosophy.
This is when they started doing a lot of drugs in kind of their experimental phase.
Exactly. And then there's the Book of Shadows, which if you open it up, it's just a bunch of dumb shadows. And if you look at the book in bright light, like in the sun, there's nothing on the page. So it's really dumb. And then a little nickname that Rob actually had in college, Petite Albert.
Petite Albert. Petite little Albert. Well, that's exciting. Well, this is going to lead us right into, we're having fun, and so it's time for fun facts. This episode had a few different tentative titles, including Ace Up My Sleeve and Magic Me.
Those are not nearly as good as Criss Angel's The Douchebag.
Yeah. Well, again, I can't believe, like Bob said, I can't believe it got through.
Yeah, shocking, but, kudos. Glad somebody was asleep at the wheel. The characters Vernon and Charlie are named after 2 famous magicians, Di Vernon and Charlie Miller. In their later years, the 2 frequently performed at the Magic Castle in Hollywood, California.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Magic at the Magic Castle?
I have. It's awesome.
I have not, and it's like I can't believe it. I've been invited, and I haven't been able to go the times I've been invited. And
you got to go, man.
Yeah. Help me do that, Rich.
Help you. Help me. Help yourself.
Michael Weston, Northwestern graduate, who played young Charlie, is the son of John Rubinstein, and John Rubinstein, of course, played the older Charlie and the Magician. So
got to be the first time in supernatural history that an actual father played an actual father of the character. Wait a minute, that's what I mean. A father and son work together.
Yeah, young Charlie, he played the young version of John, and so that's.
I know at some point Jensen Ackles' dad is in an episode, Mr. Ackles. Really? Yeah, but so that happens.
Is he related to Dean at all in that?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out when we get there.
Okay. Dean quotes the Who song "My Generation" when he says,
"Who?"
Dean quotes the Who song.
Whose song is it?
The Who. When he says,
no, wait, what's it again?
The Who.
Who?
The Who. That's all the time we have, everyone. The Who song "My Generation" when he says, "I hope I die before I get old." Of course, that is a line from the song "My Generation." He says, "I hope I die
before I get old." What's the line preceding that? People try to put us down
talking about my generation.
Just because we get around
talking about my generation.
Things they do are something so cold.
Always go cold. Talking about my generation.
Hope I die before I get old.
Talking about my generation.
Wouldn't it be weird if there's a list of bands playing, like they were all playing a festival and the bands were listed and the DJ was reading out all the bands were playing and he had to read the were playing and then the Who. You got like, and closing the night, the 2 bands, the Who. the Who.
All right. Why don't you read that last fun fact?
Oh, yeah. Young Charlie tells his friend he's been around long enough to shill for Barnum. He's referring to Paul Thomas Barnum, known as P.T., an entertainer active in the mid-1800s, played by Hugh Jackman in the movie The Greatest Showman. That makes Charlie at least 190 years old at the time of this episode.
Oh, 5 years older than you, Rich.
Exactly.
Oh, my goodness. What if, again, belly full of laughs for this guy.
So many laughs, so many facts, so many fun, so many mythology, so much.
So much. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. Another fun episode.
Yeah, we're back, man. We're back. We're glad to be back. Rob's glad to be back. There's Robbie. Hey, Robbie. You got Trey. He's here. You got Bruce, Steve, the whole gang. We're all back. The original lineup.
Gang's back. Gang's back. Make sure you check us out on Patreon if you want to. If you want to become a member, you get a lot of special goodies. Like
you get
watching us.
Might even get a photo of Petite Albert. I don't know what we're doing these days. But
whoa.
That's
the highest level of Patreons. Anyway, thank you as always for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.
Will do.
This episode of Supernatural features Jared Padalecki as Sam Winchester and Jensen Ackles as Dean Winchester.
Guest stars included Barry Bostwick, Richard Libertini, John Rubinstein, Criss Burns, Genevieve Cortese, Luke Camilleri, and Michael Weston.
Criss Angel is a Douchebag was written by Julie Siege, directed by Robert Singer.
Editing by Nicole Baer. Music by Christopher Lennertz.
Executive produced by Eric Kripke and Robert Singer.
The original broadcast of this episode featured the following songs. The Douchebag Theme by Christopher Lennertz and Steve Rangdakidis.
This episode originally aired on January 22nd, 2009.
This episode of Supernatural Then and Now was hosted and executive produced by Richard Spade Jr. and Rob Benedict.
Produced by Stephen Hine, written by Stephen Hine and Haida Holscher.
And edited and associate produced by Trey Booty.
What's up, Booty? Music provided by Tim Wynn.
The episode was recorded with the help of Sonic Fuel Studios.
This podcast is from Story Mill Media.
Follow the podcast on Instagram and whatever the hell they're calling Twitter these days at SPN Then and Now.
And become a member of the podcast at worldwideweb.patreon.com/SPN Then and Now.
And then Van Morrison was reuniting his band, so it was the Who, them.
And the band.
The band, it sounds like somebody a stutterer, the record skipping. Yeah. The band, them, the Who.
Story Mill Media.